Cool. So last week we went through a little bit of volume. We talked about increasing weights or increasing reps, increasing sets, things like that. So now we're going to go into rep schemes and when to know how to progress weight through your rep schemes. So let's say that we've got a program here which is 5 to 15 reps. Okay, we're going to use it as an example. Generally speaking, 0 to 6 reps, you're going to be looking at strength. So most of the time you're going to be looking at a strength adaptation because you don't really have a lot of reps to move as far as increasing your volume, right? 6 to 15 reps is a little bit more hypertrophic, so you've got a little bit more of a rep range that you can work through. And then that, say if you get to the lower part of that rep range, you've got a fair bit more room to move. And then 15 to 30, there's a lot of reps that you can move in between there. So not just focusing on reps, but you may get to say like 30 reps, and it goes 30, 27, 24, 17, right? So there's like a really big dip and a really big drop in reps as you go. These ones are going to burn a fair bit. These ones are still going to burn a little bit. However, you'll be able to push the strength up relatively well. And then strength is obviously strength. You're not developing a lot of metabolites in the muscle. There's not a lot of that burning sensation or lactic acid that's going to build up in the muscle. So that, again, kind of driving your strength adaptations through weight. So a lower range means it's going to be more weight focused, and then a higher range is going to be a little bit more focused. But we want to keep in the principle that regardless of the rep range, if you're getting to the top part of your rep range, it's probably a pretty good idea to increase the weight, because there's no point doing the same reps over and over again because you're not getting an overloading stimulus. So we've got a 4-week basic program set out here, talking starting at 3 reps in reserve, going to 2 reps in reserve, 1 and then 0. So like a standard, what we call mesocycle, or a standard 4-week training block, driving intensity and getting closer to failure as we go. So first week, let's say you've kind of underdone your weights a little bit. It's a brand new program. You chose a 10 kilo weight, and for the 4 sets, you got all sets of 15, and they're either at 3 reps in reserve or a little bit under because you were hitting the rep cap. So pretty easy, increase the weight. So next week, you come down, you do 12 reps, you're looking at 2 reps in reserve, so you get the 2 sets of 15 to hit your 2 sets in reserve, or getting that 2 rep, like the last rep kind of involuntarily slowing down. Then you get 13, then you get 11. Still in the top fair part of that rep range, so then again, you increase the weights next week. So let's say you increase the weights next week to 14 kilos, and then you get 14, 11, 9, 7, 1 rep away. So you get that slow rep, take a deep breath, get another slow rep. It's a lot slower, and you're like, I don't know if I'm going to get another rep out. That's 1 rep in reserve, or 1 rep away from what you would assume to be failure. So you're 14, 9, 7, you're getting pretty low in the rep range towards these last ones here. So one of 2 things, you could either increase the weight, risk potentially falling out of that rep zone, or you keep that weight and then you aim for rep progression. So 14, 11, 9, 7, then the next week you come in, you get 15, 12, 12, 8 at 0 reps in reserve. Now again, this is just an example. If you're aiming for a 0 rep in reserve, you're probably going to be able to get a little bit closer to failure. You'll probably still be able to pick that weight up. So weight progression is still going to be the primary stimulus that you want to be overloading. But let's say at the end of this week you were like, no, it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. I'm not going to be able to get 16 kilos up. So you go to 14, and then you aim to get 15, 12, 12, 8 as 0 reps in reserve. Now 0 reps in reserve is really good. Obviously we've already covered this, but it's good to push yourself to failure because statistically speaking, general population, which is most people that I train, people that aren't training for a specific athletic purpose or trying to get ready for a specific event that requires performance, they really underestimate their reps. So there was a study that was done a fair few years ago now, and they ran people through and they basically went, okay, cool, I want you to go to 10 reps. They got to 10 reps, recorded the weights, recorded the reps. They went, okay, cool. Now we're going to get a scientific helper or someone kind of helping conduct the study. And they stood over the top of them and they told them to keep going, keep going, keep going until they hit their failure mark. And they were anywhere between 3 reps. The more trained you are, kind of the closer you get to failure, and you can kind of guess pretty accurately. But then as far away as 20 reps away, they were leaving so much in the tank. And remember, getting closer to that rep failure point is most of the overloading stimulus. So going to 0 reps in reserve is very, very good, because maybe this week you do that and then you go 15, 15, 15, 15, and you're like, holy shit, I was leaving a lot in the tank. So then the next time you come through, you go 0 reps in reserve, you do a little bit of a deload, so you do a bit of a lighter week, get used to movement mechanics and things like that, drop it down slightly, and for maybe like a 4 reps in reserve, then you start back up at 3 reps in reserve. You know what failure now feels like, then you can push yourself a little bit further. So say you come back in and you're like, okay, cool. So I'm going to go to 16 kilos. Let's say that you get to 16 kilos here, and then instead of 15, 15, 15, let's say you go 15, 11, 9, 6. So, all right, cool. So then you'd stick to 16 as we come down, and then you'd probably get close to, say, like a 15, 13, 11, 8. It's like, you know what, cool. I'm going to push it. I'm going to push it. So you go to 18 kilos, and then it's like a 12, 10, 7, 5. And then you're like, okay, cool. I know that I'm getting to the lower part of that rep range for us to hit failure, and then failure looks like 13, 11, 8, 8. So then from the start of the program, 8 weeks ago, you were doing 10 sets of 15, 4 sets of 15, 3 reps in reserve. Now you're down to 13, 11, 8, 8 at 16 kilo at 0 reps in reserve. So that's why using not just our rep schemes, but using weight, using our 0 RIR, using it very strategically, helps us kind of push ourselves to that point, to push ourselves where our muscles don't necessarily want us to be going. Because again, it's hard, right? But training's hard, and we have to provide that overloading stimulus to make sure that we're going to be growing. Because if we're doing what our body's comfortable with doing now, your body's already got all that equipment, already knows what it needs to do. It's already got everything there available. You need to be pushing yourself to get the most out of that program. So hopefully that makes sense with your rep schemes. If it's going to be up a little bit higher, obviously they're going to drop down a little bit faster. If it's strength, driving that up nice and high. And then we talked about our hypertrophy stimulus and rep range there. So hopefully that'll make sense. Obviously if it doesn't, drop me a message and I'm more than happy to run it through with you.